Welcome back to One of the Trenches podcast. I'm Johnny Jones. He's Patches Kaplan. We're here today to recap a little bit about Week 13, preview Rivalry Week. Patches, happy Thanksgiving. How we doing, man?
Hey, Johnny, happy Thanksgiving to you. I'm doing good. This is arguably the best stretch of the year. You
Oh,
know, Wednesday is full of baking and snacking and eating. Thursday is obviously Thursday, coated in NFL and turkey, despite me cooking a ham this year. And then Friday and Saturday, rivalry weekend. Just you're eating a lot, you're shopping a lot, there's leftovers. It's just a gluttonous weekend full of indulgences.
oh
Um,
yeah. And
but
we were saying before the pod, I don't remember a year where this Friday's been as good of a slate. Like as we record right now, Mississippi State, Ole Miss is kicking off. But then we got Georgia Tech later, and then Texas A&M, Texas tonight, and that's before we even get to the big games tomorrow. Like
yeah,
what a day we have.
no, there is quite, after last week's quite literally lack of any upsets, there was like practically nothing really to talk about. Excuse me, out of the ordinary. This week has arguably the craziest setup I think that I can remember in recent times.
Totally.
We're talking teams could get knocked out. We're talking teams that were a guaranteed lock to make the playoffs are now, going to go head to head with these unranked teams that we think could upset them. We can go down the list. Before we start that, Johnny, real quick, fun segment. Just list a couple things that you're thankful for in the college football world, whether that be teams that are undefeated, whether that be teams that are on the college coach search, because there's been some college football news. The coach from North Texas took Oklahoma State.
Which I think he'll do a good job. He's a
Jim
good coach.
Jim Mora just took Colorado State, which is an incredibly weird move.
Yeah, he did. Except he was good at
He
UConn. Like,
was.
UConn was
He should
he
have done a
did,
bigger job. But I'll,
yeah.
I'll go. I'll go first, Johnny. A couple things I'm thankful for is I am thankful for Notre Dame's playoff run that's going to happen. I'm thankful for Marcus Freeman and C.J. Carr and Jeremiah Love, who should be the Heisman.
Let me interrupt. You guys should go to jail for what you did to Syracuse. 70 points in a football game is never cool. That was absolutely absurd.
Yeah,
You can't sleep well that night. That's crazy.
so I got into the car where I went to the D3 state championship on Saturday, and I get into the car and I start driving, and I tell my wife Tiana, and I say, Tiana, can you check the Notre Dame score? And she goes, oh, it's 14-0. And I was like, wow, how many minutes have gone by? And she goes, how many minutes are in a quarter? I said 15. She said there's 13:40 on the clock. And I said, wait a minute, we scored 14 points in a minute and 30 seconds essentially. She was like, yeah. And then before you know it, it was 21-0 and 28-0 and 35-0. And, that was a true slaughterhouse. I think we are going to try to send a message. I think we're doing a really, really good job of that. But I am thankful for Notre Dame. I'm thankful for my Fighting Irish. I'm also thankful for OSU dominating Michigan tomorrow. I think that they're going to come out ready to play and finally get that their head above the water in terms of Michigan. And then I'm excited and thankful for the SEC battles that we have up and coming.
Yeah, no, a lot to be thankful for. First off, I'm thankful Penn State got a very exciting senior night win when I was there. Me and my dad, we got the taco bar going for the tailgate. We wanted to mix it up.
Your bad luck charm is finally off.
But yeah, no, it was awesome. And I was 500 in Penn State games last 2 years I've attended, so that put me over 500. That was exciting. We saw Katron Allen get the all-time rush record at Penn State. It was a very great day. I'm also excited for the run the Ducks are. I'm thankful for the run the Ducks are about to go on. They had a very great win. We can go into that in a second about against USC. And then I'm just excited for some chaos, man. Like the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 will like those games are decided today. Which like in years past, especially the SEC, it's like we already know who's going to the dance, like who's going to the big game today. This whole weekend is going to determine those championship weekend, which will then determine the playoff. Which I'm super excited and thankful for that.
You know what I'm thankful for, Johnny? That you brought it up is that I'm thankful that we have a system in place. And don't get me wrong, you and I have talked extensively about the BCS being a great system, the 14 playoff being an introduction. And then if we went to 16 or 24 teams, it would kind of break down the regular season a little bit. Like the idea that Texas would already be in win or lose tomorrow in a 2014 playoff is kind of sickening, which I don't want to see. But what I am thankful for is that under normal circumstances, when we were seeing Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State in every single 14 playoff, we are looking at today, arguably what? today and tomorrow 14, maybe 13 games that all
That
have
matter,
playoff implications.
which we never used to have that.
Like
Yeah,
UVA Virginia Tech has playoff implications. Like, what does that
it's
even mean?
it's awesome. Like the big thing when they introduced the playoff was that the regular season games aren't going to matter as much. Regular season games aren't going to matter, and some of them don't matter as much. Like Michigan, Ohio State matters, but maybe not as much as it used to. But that's a small sacrifice you got to make for the bigger picture. Where now we have like 20 games today that matter, which we never had that. So I think there is a lot of credence to because of the playoff, more regular season games affect later on in the season, which I think they all matter.
Yeah, no, like under normal the 14 year, we'd be looking at the SEC championship, the Big Ten championship, and then maybe a game in the Big 12 right now. Sorry, we would be looking at those teams to determine who's making those championship games, and then maybe the Big 12. But like we're talking, there are so many games this week that have
It's awesome.
college football implications for the postseason. It's unbelievable. I'm just going to hop right in to our picks from last week. I'm going to pull this up here. So we previewed just a handful of games. Last week was the fluff week for the SEC. With that being said, LSU barely squeezes a win away with Western Kentucky. But we had Mizzou at OU. We had USC at Oregon. We had Nebraska at Penn State, Tennessee at Florida, and Pitt at Georgia Tech. To start, OU dominated Mizzou in a game that I thought was going to be much closer. We're going to talk about Mizzou in, excuse me, in that game in a little bit. USC goes to Oregon, cannot find a way to stay off the field on third down, cannot stop. Oregon cannot figure out. It's just the same thing with Lincoln Riley, and I think we're going to see a really good Lincoln Riley in the near future. And I think his course on USC is ugly. And the reason I'm saying that is that we're sitting here and saying he won 11 games, and then he won 10 games. Am I mistaken on that, or he won 8 games the second year?
I think it is. I'll pull it up.
But regardless, he made a terrible hire in Alex Grinch. Shout out UNH. Makes a terrible hire with Alex Grinch. He's paying that price years down the line.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. To push back on that. So he's been 11-3, 8-5, 7-6, 8-3. Yes, that wasn't the greatest hire. But at the same time, he had Grinch at Oklahoma, and they were ripping off 12-win seasons 3 years in a row. So I don't know. Like I know you're high on Lincoln Riley. I'm down on Lincoln Riley. I heard Urban. I was listening to a podcast. They were interviewing Urban Meyer. I forget the podcast, but they were talking about how like his thoughts on USC and their expectations there. And he's talking about how maybe the last 10 years they haven't been as good, but when we were kids, USC was basically a blue blood. Those years, they had that run of Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer. Sam Darnold had a good season there. Like they were like a really great program. And Urban ended up saying 5 losses at Ohio State or Alabama get you fired. But we should keep that energy with Lincoln at USC because I don't know. I think this is what his 4th season. We're waiting for him to make that jump, but I just don't see the program heading in that direction. I don't know. Like he had the Heisman winning quarterback. Jordan Maeva was another great quarterback this year. He had Miller Moss. He's had talent there. He's had great receivers. Makai Lemon is a top 3 receiver in the nation this year. I don't see it going in the right. I just don't see positivity out of USC.
It's one of arguably the highest recruiting class in 2026. That is, attributing because of their new general manager from Notre Dame. I think that this team should be in the playoffs. They had a really tough game against Illinois. I think that they've had a bad draw. Sorry, got a tickle. But all in all, I think that they're making the right steps. They're recruiting really well out of high school. They're building for the future. They don't know what to do in Southern Cal because of the investments that they've put into Lincoln Riley's team into the facilities and everything. But I don't think that you're respecting Lincoln Riley enough to say that, yeah, I think things would be a lot different. If he went 8-4 his first year with Caleb Williams, this conversation would be a whole different animal. And everyone would be like, he's doing exactly what we thought he would be doing. I think they're setting up for a really, really good year. I think they're setting up for a really, really good program. They're not there yet.
I just think they're in a bunch of games. They're like even that first half against Oregon, they were very
Yep.
competitive. Like they're in these games, and it's the same story that the past 2 years where they like last year they go 7-6, and like five of those losses, the Notre Dame game, the Penn State game last year, like they were in those games. I'm just waiting for them to pull one of those wins out. Like I feel like they lose every close game.
Yeah.
I don't know. And let's just go into the game against Oregon. So it was 42-27. And this was a game a lot of people picked USC. And don't get me wrong, I see what everyone was saying. Like Oregon's top two receivers are out, DeCorian Moore and Gary Bryant Jr. And still they couldn't stop Oregon on third down. Kenyon Sadiq, I know people are talking about him, but he might be the best tight end in the country. He's a freak, like an athletic, like looks like he's built in a lab. Like, but when you have those two receivers out, you can't let Sadiq go for like 100 yards. Like, of course, that's the only person to throw into. And then I don't know, Will Stein, the offensive coordinator for Oregon, he is a guy that it's fun to watch Oregon run the ball. Like the stuff, the pulling guards and the motion, the confusion. Like when they run the ball, man, it's pretty to watch.
No, I think you're spot on. I was disappointed that USC was not able to compete in the trenches, and I think that's the number one reason they're not there yet. I think I'm not in my lonesome on that. I think everyone would agree that like they could not get off the field. Another thing that's not talking about is that a lot of people aren't talking about is the fact that USC had multiple penalties that led to points. Right? They get off the field with a missed field goal. Then they had a penalty where they jumped over the center, and then Oregon goes and scores a touchdown. You can't allow that to happen. You got off. That's a 14-point swing, essentially. Yeah. You can't allow that stuff to happen. I think that USC is a couple really good linebackers and D linemen away from being a threat. I don't think that they're going to be built to be a consistent powerhouse, but I do think that we could expect a 10-win season in the near future. But with that being said, I don't know if Lincoln Riley is going to stick around. I think that his name has got to be getting floated around for some of these jobs.
Okay, I did see a report that says he's staying because that came out yesterday. I did see that report, but I don't know. Is his name hot enough right now to hire out of Oklahoma? Like anyone would have hired him, but I don't know. Is his name hot enough right now where he could get a big job? I just don't think like he had a ton of
resources. Coaching pool is getting thinner and thinner, despite what you like to believe. Eli Drinkwitz just signed a $10.5 million a year extension with Mizzou. That's got to be a blow to LSU into Florida. Lane Kiffin's going to make his decision in about 2.5 hours or so.
Clark Leah too. Clark Leah, he re-signed this morning out of Vanderbilt, which I think that's good for Vanderbilt. But I don't know what the post Diego Pavia, Eli Stowers era looks like for them, but that's huge for Vanderbilt. Let's move on though to Oklahoma 17, Mizzou 6. It wasn't an incredibly exciting game. I know they lost. I do want to give a huge shout out though to Bo Pribula. He dislocated his ankle like 4 weeks ago. I just assumed he was out for the season. And I'm sitting at the tailgate, getting the food out, and we put the TV on. And all of a sudden, I see Nine walking up. I'm like, oh, is he just walking up for senior day? And no, he's like under center. I'm like, what the hell is going on? That was crazy.
They got to be pumping him with some serious goop or something, some out of this world stuff, because I have no idea. I suffered an ankle injury, and I'm still limping around that from time to time. So Bo Pribula, much tougher than I am. What I'm taking from that game is that OU was gritty, right? They let up that touchdown. It was 13-play drive, first drive of the game, and I said, huge trap game. Yeah. Huge trap game. And then they did not let up another point. I'm afraid this OU team might be as good as advertised, and I really hope they don't drop a game and they get in the playoffs because I would love to see what would happen.
The defense, I think, is top 3 in the SEC right now. And, they let up – they're so classic bend, don't break. They let up yards. They get timely turnovers. They get after the quarterback. And then John Mateer's a winner. And he's got a great group of receivers like Kanak at tight end. They got Burks, who I talk about a lot. And then I'm always say his name wrong. Say Tegna is the leading receiver. He's awesome. I just think what scares me for the playoffs and is the same thing we've been saying about Alabama is they struggle to consistently run the ball, and I think that they become really one dimensional. And I think that then they have to then lean on John Mateer running the ball, and he's been hurt a couple times, and that kind of scares me his durability down the stretch this year. But this Mizzou team, you're right, just so gritty. Venables is doing a great job this year finally. And, they win, they're in. And they should beat LSU. They should beat LSU.
It shouldn't be much of a game, but you got to be pretty fired up if you're OU right now. And it's kind of crazy. Like you're talking OU might get 2 or 3 weeks off after this week to recover and recruit. regroup and regather, and it's just
Get
exciting.
healthy. Yeah.
The only other one that I want to talk about really quick, Pitt, Georgia Tech. Was Pat Narduzzi right on what he was saying? Do I have to apologize publicly?
Yeah. Spoiler alert: he's gonna show up in my winners list later. But Pat Narduzzi might be right. Except the only thing is they're screwed because they can't get in. It's a really they have to jump. They need a lot of things to happen to get in the ACC championship game. But you're right. Like he might have been right. Like don't care about the Notre Dame game. Just care
If
about
they
the
beat
ACC.
Miami, it's got to be argued that Notre Dame's win is that impressive against them with how dominating it was. But we'll talk about that in
Not if Pat Narduzzi doesn't care. He doesn't care about
Yeah.
the Notre Dame game.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. And all he cares about Miami and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is in a gauntlet now.
That
I'm
sucks.
excited. Yeah, that's really, really unfortunate. So we're gonna move on, Johnny, really quick. You still have 15 Cheesecake Factory picks of the week. 15 points, excuse me. I'm at 7. Both you and I swung and missed last week.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of games to preview. We have a bunch of parlays to talk about. We have a bunch of things to go. So where do you want to go next?
Do you want to go in conference championship? Talk a little about what are the possibilities for each of those?
Yeah. No, you have
Okay.
the article. Go ahead. I will talk as you go.
So, okay, I'm going to throw out, I'll go down each conference. I'll name the big teams, what has to happen, and I want to get your thoughts on all of them. So just react to what I'm saying. Okay, so let's start with the SEC. This one's pretty chaotic. So the top 4 teams that all have like the best chance of making it right now are Texas A&M, no conference losses. Georgia, 1 loss to Bama. Ole Miss, 1 loss to Georgia. And then Bama, 1 loss. Who did Bama lose to in the SEC?
They lost to OU.
OU. So this is hectic. So the most likely matchup is Bama versus A&M. That happens if both those teams win. How do you feel about the Iron Bowl? Is there any chance Auburn can grit that out? Because if they can grit that out, chaos happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a world in where that isn't a close game. They played a hell of a game last week. 2 weeks ago, I would have said that this game is going to be a blowout, like an absolute blowout. But they played really, really, really tight against Vanderbilt. Had to go into OT. Obviously they laid an egg against Kentucky. I thought this was a dead team, but dropping 62 points against Mercier, obviously not impressive. But Mercer is a pretty good FCS team. And you can't take that for nothing. Their freshman quarterback got player of the week in the SEC. I think chaos can ensue. I think that Bama does win the game, but it is awfully weird how the spread went from like 9.5, I believe, now down to 5.5. We'll talk about the spreads in a little bit, but
this
I
game
think
is bizarre. It's always bizarre. Weird stuff happens.
A&M is practically locked, right?
Yeah. So Bama and A&M both control their destinies. Both those teams go out and win this weekend. They're both in. Georgia gets in with an A&M loss. Georgia gets in with a Bama loss. So there's that to look forward to. And then Ole Miss gets in if A&M and Bama both lose and Georgia wins. So there's definitely a lot of chaos, but the most likely matchup is Bama and A&M winning. I think that's honestly better for Georgia. I know you don't want to play a first-round game if you don't have to, but Georgia taking what? The next week we got Navy Army. And then the week after that, conference championships. To get healthy, to rest Gunnar Stockton, he's been on the field, I feel like 90% this year. They just win shootouts. So I feel like getting healthy is pretty huge for Georgia the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, I think that Auburn really can dominate Bama on the outskirts. I'm really excited to see that matchup. But, in a dream world, I would love to see an A&M Georgia or A&M Bama. I don't want to see Bama win the SEC simply because I don't think that they've earned it. I don't think that they deserve to be in that game. I think, they have, the 9th or 10th ranked hardest schedule, but, there was a decent chunk of fluff in there, and that's just a normal SEC schedule. I'm not going to give them any credit because the same way that people are not showing any type of respect to Notre Dame for their losses, we have to show the same type of consistency with Bama and argue that losing to an unranked Florida State, a 4-6 Florida State team, is more embarrassing than losing to 2 ranked teams. And everyone's just loving to ignore that just based on true strength of schedule. But I don't want to see Bama in the playoffs. I hope they lose today for that reason. I want to see A&M get there. But that is some chaos. What do we have going on for the ACC, Johnny?
ACC. Wait, one last thing about A&M. I just wanted to pump in there. We talk a lot about like conferences are getting too big. I think it's crazy. I know they've had a tough schedule. Obviously, they had an awesome win against Notre Dame, but the fact that they haven't played a top 8 SEC team is crazy, and it's why these conferences shouldn't be as big as they are. It's
Yeah.
like Indiana last year. Indiana's legit this year. They were building last year, but they had that weak schedule because they missed a bunch of teams, and like I don't know. I kind of hate how we're in this era of 20 team conferences, and you might not play a good team, and because of that, you might get in just based off a weaker schedule. I know A&M hasn't had the totally.
I think things will change if A&M goes and wins the SEC and then gets a bye and then gets dominated in the first round that they play, which is the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
I think that teams are going to start to argue and say, what is going on here?
Okay, so now let's go to the ACC. This is by far the most chaotic one, and so we have three teams with one loss. We got Virginia, SMU, and Pitt. One thing to note about Virginia, they obviously lost 2 weeks ago to Wake Forest. They're 6-1 in the ACC, 9-2 overall, and their second loss is to NC State. But I must remind the listeners, when Virginia and NC State played, that was a non-conference game, which is the dumbest, most insane thing of all time.
People are going to be rioting if they win or get the game.
If I was Pat Narduzzi so I'll start with this. Virginia and SMU both control their destiny. So if they both win this weekend, Virginia SMU is the ACC championship. If Pitt goes out and beats Miami, if I was Pat Narduzzi, I would be at ACC headquarters busting through the door and saying, there's no way Virginia can lose to NC State in that knockout in the ACC. Because that's crazy. If they beat Miami, that's a big if, but I'm saying if they do, they'll have had one loss in the ACC and be left out, which is completely ridiculous because Virginia's lost twice in the ACC. I don't know how that happens, but basically the most likely situation is Virginia SMU if they both win. Pitt can get in with an SMU loss and they beat Miami this weekend. SMU Pitt is also on the table if Miami and Virginia loses. So if either of those if Virginia or SMU loses, Pitt gets in if they win. But then we also have three teams just kind of on the cusp. We have Georgia Tech, Miami, and Duke. They all have 2 losses. They all get in if some combinations of Virginia, SMU, and Pitt lose this week. So we got chaos. You have 6 teams just in the mix still.
Yeah, no, you got to control your own destiny if you're the first 3, but the second 3, are what everyone thought would be the big ones in the ACC run. I'm not ready to crown a champion in the ACC in the playoffs. Like, a Virginia or another SMU making the playoffs would just be kind of insulting to the playoffs because everyone knows the other 10 teams that are not the non-power 4, not including the non-power 4, would absolutely body them. And I would argue that JMU would beat all 3 of those.
Yeah, I just think it's a bummer because you and me are huge Haynes King guys at Georgia Tech, and early in that season, that win over Clemson, like I was riding the Brent Key train. I'm like, hire Brent Key at Penn State right now. Like this is exciting, and it's just a bummer that they lost last week, and it's going to make it really, really hard to make it. Obviously, like they're going straight into the mouth of the beast against Georgia this weekend.
Yeah, no, they in a way control their own destiny because if they beat Georgia.
It's an impressive resume.
It's a very impressive resume. And that could cause a lot of but they need a lot of things to go their way.
And we know how much recency bias affects the committee. And if you beat Georgia that last week of the season, everyone's gonna be like, Georgia Tech best team in the nation. You know what I mean? Like,
no, you're spot on.
Prisoner of the moment. Okay, what do you want next? You want Big 12 or Big 10?
So real quick, SMU, they're playing Cal. What's the spread? Oh, geez. So it's likely a Virginia SMU game is going to happen. SMU is a 14-point favorite. Virginia is an 8.5-point favorite. So that's while chaos can happen, that is a lot of chaos. So the Big Ten is almost all but solidified, right? OSU makes the Big Ten championship if they win. Indiana also makes it if they win.
Yeah, they're controlled their own destiny mode.
Michigan can get in with an OSU loss and a loss by Oregon.
Yeah, so I've got it up right now. So the most likely situation is Indiana, Ohio State. Indiana, Oregon's the second most likely. That happens with Indiana winning, Michigan beating Ohio State, and Oregon winning. So if Michigan wins, they're not necessarily in because Oregon jumps them. And then Indiana, Michigan happens if Indiana wins, Michigan beats Ohio State, and Oregon loses. So Michigan get in, but they need some help they need to do it themselves, and then they need Washington's help. The craziest thing, which is my favorite situation that could happen, is if Ohio, is if Indiana loses, Michigan beats Ohio State, and Oregon loses the Big Ten championships. Ohio State, Michigan, which would be insane. That's like insane. That would like that's Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon losing. That's why this whatever website I got right now is like awesome, just because it's just listing the chaos.
Imagine that.
It'd be crazy.
We're going to see it in the next 5 years that Michigan and Ohio State will play 2 times in a year, and it's going to be as electric as you could possibly imagine. That is insane. My thought is, and here's my little bit of a concern, is I don't think, for the record, throwing this out there, I'm not going to create problems, but I don't think Ohio State loses tomorrow. I think that this is going to be a little bit of a slaughterhouse game, and everything will fall into place. But I do believe that if Michigan wins, there's a very, very strong argument that they should be in the playoff.
Yeah, 9-2.
9-2. You would argue
Oklahoma and USC.
USC, their Oklahoma loss is a top 10 loss, and then their other loss was
top
obviously
25 loss.
Yeah, top 25 loss. And, I would not be upset if they had a good argument. I don't see, I see the least amount of chaos in the Big Ten. I see Indiana and Ohio State, and we'll talk about both those teams in a little bit. But that is insane how that could play out.
And then moving on, Big 12 is also, we have teams that can control their own destiny, but also some chaos. So right now we got 4 teams still in the mix. We got Texas Tech sitting at 7-1, BYU sitting at 7-1. Utah 6-2, and Arizona State 6-2. I'm just saying conference record. Obviously, those aren't the full records. Arizona State has another loss to Mississippi State. They're 8-3 total. But so Texas Tech and BYU is the most likely matchup. That happens if both teams win. The second most likely thing to happen is BYU Arizona State. Interestingly enough, that happens with BYU winning, Arizona State winning, and Texas Tech and Utah losing. So a lot kind of has to happen.
Yeah, Texas Tech's a massive favorite. So I think Texas Tech is kind of locked in their position. And as unfortunate as it is, I think Utah needs BYU to lose to make it in, and they need to win.
So Utah gets in if BYU wins, Utah wins, Arizona State wins, and Texas Tech loses. So if Tech loses, everyone else wins, Utah can slip in. I think that's a big if. I haven't even looked. Who does Texas Tech have this week?
I believe West Virginia.
Oh yeah, they're gonna. I love Rich Rod, but that's
so the only way that Utah gets in is if Texas Tech loses.
Yeah, if they lose to West Virginia and everyone else wins, they can get in. Yeah. Which that'd be awesome. I love Utah. I think Texas Tech. If they lose, if Texas Tech lose West Virginia, are they out?
I don't think so. I don't think they lose it, and so I would argue that that's too crazy, out of this world. My argument is if BYU goes into the Big 12 championship and they lose 35-7, 42-7, 42-0, 24-7, something pretty one-sided, and some other chaos ensues, does Utah have any path whatsoever to make the playoffs?
What if they don't get in the championship game? Could they still make it in?
Could they bypass BYU even though they lost to BYU?
If BYU loses this week, then maybe. What
I'm saying is things go business as usual. All 4 of those teams win, right? We're seeing a BYU Texas Tech Big 12 championship.
Oh, I don't think they jump them because they lost to them. I don't.
But that Texas Tech BYU game was ugly. While the Utah Texas Tech game was not that ugly, and if you go into the conference championship and they get bodied again, and you're looking to take 2 teams, I'm almost more inclined to take Utah, especially with how well they've been playing.
No, Utah kind of got hammered by Tech. It was 30
game, and then the last little bit they scored 30 touchdowns last 6 minutes.
It was 34-10. I don't know. I remember that game being and Baron Morton didn't play the second half. Texas Tech's quarterback. I don't know. I think Texas Tech is by far and away the best team in the Big 12.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think BYU is getting really, really disrespected by myself personally, too. Another just quick update for our listeners. We are currently at 14-7, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. This is going to be a dogfight. I need Ole Miss to win by a touchdown. And if that's the case, I can retire both you and I. And
Yeah, no, yeah, I rode that with you. Let's go.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. So moving on, Johnny, to this week's football games. I'm just going to list off a couple. If I miss any,
Wait, can
please
I do
let
a
me
quick
know.
losers first?
You want to do that right now?
Oh, you want to do? Oh, yeah, we can do it after. We'll do it after. You go.
Because we're going to dive into these a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, let's do it.
So we have Ole Miss currently playing Mississippi State. They are current 7.5-point favorites. Utah is at Kansas. Utah's a 10-point favorite. Georgia is at a neutral site against Georgia Tech, 15.5-point dogs for Georgia Tech. A&M is heading to Texas. Texas is a 3-point underdog. Ohio State going to Michigan, 9.5-point favorites there. Miami at Pitt. Pitt is a 7-point dog. Oregon at Washington, a tricky game. Washington's plus 6.5. LSU is heading to OU, 10.5 for OU. Vandy at Tennessee, -3. A crazy game you and I both have not talked about. A team we have not talked about. A team that's likely going to go 10-2. Might not make the mother trucking playoffs in the SEC. So crazy to me. You know, we always talk about how A&M didn't play a good team. Vandy did play good teams, and they're still getting punished for it. Bama heading to Auburn. The line has moved down to 5.5 there. Notre Dame at Stanford, 31.5. The only reason I included that is go Irish. So to start, Ole Miss versus Mississippi State. The only way that this game holds any prevalence to me is in about an hour and a half, we will know where Lane Kiffin coaches, right? He's going right into his post-game interview and announcing it.
Yeah.
And what is this bachelor type?
Do you think it's because if they lose, are they out? Probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's why. If he loses this game, they're out, and then he's out. Like, he's not coaching the bowl game. You know what I mean? So that's why I think he's doing it. If they lose, do
you think he's making a decision based on if they win or lose? Like, he cannot be that immature.
Why else would he do it right after the game?
Because he's staying there. He's staying there.
So why wouldn't he just say that before the game? This has got to be a distraction for everyone. So, like, why wouldn't you just?
I don't know.
I can see him going to LSU.
This is the weirdest situation. Why would you win this game? You have now basically locked yourself into the playoffs. Possibly possibly walk through the door to a SEC championship. You have now arrived where you have been wanting to go for 3 or 4 years. And then you're going to say, see you later to rebuild at a program that's now had 3 head coaches in 5 years, both of them, LSU and Florida. Explain that to me. Like, I guess I just don't understand how someone could have the kahunas to sit there and be like, hey, great win, boys.
Because I honestly I think it's scummy, but it's because I honestly think, and you have to agree, you can't disagree with this. LSU is a better job than Ole Miss. It's a better job for a couple of reasons. You're the only major state in Louisiana, whereas Ole Miss, I know you're better than Mississippi State, but you're still competing for recruits with Mississippi State. You're the only big dog in your state. You got a ton of money, and I know Brian Kelly didn't get it done, but you got to look before that. Coach O, Les Miles, Nick Saban, all won national championships there. You can do it fast at LSU. Where Ole Miss, it's so hard to reproduce at Ole Miss. Think about your lifetime. How many times
he's had 30 wins in the last 3 years?
Yeah, but what does he have to show for that? Did he, you know what I mean? Like in your lifetime, how many times has Ole Miss been a contender? They had Chad Kelly. That was fun. Was it Bo Wallace, the other guy? Besides that, like those 2 seasons, it's hard. It's a hard market because if you're in the SEC, if you're a high school recruit and you're getting recruited by these schools, you're probably picking Bama over Ole Miss. You're probably picking Bama. Auburn's been better at the past of our lifetime.
See, I think you're overstating this a little bit. I think yes, LSU
Texas, Oklahoma, like it just you're not the top of the totem pole.
He's not ever recruiting top of the totem pole guys. He's getting transfer guys who are trying to go 1 year and done. He's done a hell of a job with consistency in the transfer portal and producing talent. I just think that you would lose all credibility as a head coach if there was any semblance of sanity for you to sit there and say, we just made the playoffs, right? They would say they're in the playoffs. I think that goes without saying. We win today. We are in the playoffs. I'm out of here to go rebuild 2 trash teams with 2 trash administrations, one of which just fired their AD. Then on top of that, you're now going to say, hey, listen, LSU or Florida, most likely LSU, I'm not going to do the same thing that I just did. There's just no way you can make the playoffs and leave your team in the same couple weeks.
You think Lane Kiffin cares about credibility?
Yes.
No,
I think that
he doesn't.
I think he's taking a corner.
No, he
Yes, I do.
doesn't. What about Tennessee? He was there 1 year and said, "See you later. I'm going to USC, guys. Bye bye."
At the time, USC, you and I were just talking about it. At the time, USC was a better job, and they were not competing for a national
LSU
championship.
is a better job, I think, than Ole Miss. I think
yes, but
LSU's
LSU's not competing for a national championship right now. Ole Miss is.
Yeah, but but long term, you can compete at a more consistent level LSU than Ole Miss. And if we have any
So
Ole
right now,
Miss fans,
Sports
definitely
Illustrated
want
has
to
Lane Kiffin is favored to become the head coach at the LSU Tigers with his current odds at minus 175. Bet 175, win 100.
Yeah.
Following that by Florida at plus 125 and Ole Miss at plus 600.
That's what I'm saying. Were you hoping when you looked that up, were you hoping those odds were going to be your way?
Yeah, I'm a little bit rattled because I bet $25 with my friend Paul that he was staying at Ole Miss. And
oh, no.
Now I'm a little bit rattled because I was like, it was like, I'm just going to avoid him. I'm just not going to see him for a couple weeks.
Now real time. I was talking. I saw your face. You're just like, oh no.
I'm going to do a little bit more digging.
Yeah.
Also, there's a picture of him when he was the head coach at FAU, and he is chunky as all hell, and he's got to be annoyed at that photo. But nonetheless, we'll continue. I think they win today. I think he does stay at Ole Miss. I think he has built the exact program that he wants in a team. I think they're gritty. I think they're offensive minded. I think he can do anything that he wants to do.
Trinidad Chambliss, man, he's awesome.
Utah at Kansas. I don't think that this game. Now that you've spelled out the Big 12 a little bit, I think still Utah dominates this game. Are we going down and doing our picks, Johnny, or what do you want to do?
Let's do picks as we go.
Okay, yeah, I think side note, I think Ole Miss wins by more than 7.5 there.
I'm taking them. I'm riding with you there.
I don't know much about Kansas. They've had an up and down season. Unfortunately, they're heading towards the down part of their season. I think Utah is still a really talented team. Very, very gritty win against Kansas State last week, 52-47. There was a 99% chance that they would lose that game at one point in the fourth quarter with like 3 minutes left. Give me Utah on all the points.
Same. I love Kyle Whittingham. I love Devin Dampier.
3 weeks ago, I would have said Georgia Tech is going to punch Georgia in the mouth, but I think that Georgia is that good of a team. I think they're going to dominate the trenches. 15.5 is a lot. That line has moved now, I think 5, maybe even 6 points in the last 10 days. Not a game that I would probably bet, but I kind of have to lean Georgia here. They're right. They're trying to get to the SEC championship. I think they're the best team in the SEC. They're trying to get, if they can't get to the SEC championship, they're trying to get to spot number 5. I think Georgia Tech's dead in the water.
Oh, yeah, I'm taking all the points with Georgia, and it pains me to say that because I love Haynes King. I love Brent Key. That being said, I think Georgia's a top 3 team in the whole country. They scare me. I think the wheels are falling off the bus with Georgia Tech after that loss last week. I think Georgia's going to have no problem going down the field, and the defense is just getting better every week. This is a different defense than we saw against Tennessee. And, Georgia's great. Yeah.
Home game. Yeah. So A&M heading to Texas, a very, very big matchup that people have played up in their heads about Georgia, Texas losing to Georgia or beating Georgia and then losing to A&M or losing to Georgia and beating A&M. I don't see a world in which Texas wins this game. I don't know where this conversation has been brought up. We have said all year long, Texas is underperforming, despite what Steve Sarkisian is saying. Texas is underperforming. They don't have the outside threats. They don't have the linemen, and they don't have the run game that they've had in the last 3 years, right? They finished in the top 6, the last 3 years in a row, making it to the 2 playoffs in the 4 team and then being, I think, the 5th-ranked team or 4th-ranked team last year.
Yeah.
But they don't have the outside threats. They have a great defense. That's undeniable. But I don't see a world where that offense is able to produce anything that's worth a possible run in this game. I think that they lose by way more than 3 points. It doesn't matter that this is a home game. I think this is A&M's game for the taking.
I'm going A&M, and I'm closing my eyes. I don't know. I've said it last couple of weeks I can see Texas winning this game. That's just because of their defense. I think this defense is still so good. Anthony Hill Jr., Michael Taffy, Colin Simmons, man, they get after the quarterback, and you saw Marcel Reed struggled tremendously in that first half against South Carolina, especially because South Carolina has elite talent. Dylan Stewart like rushing the quarterback, so I can see Marcel Reed struggling. At the same time, I just don't think Arch Manning can keep up. Like I think Texas A&M's offense will be able to score. There's two elite receivers, Casey Concepcion and then Craver on the outside. That being said, if this is like a slugfest, if this is like 14-7, that scares the hell out of me. If you're Texas A&M,
I'd be even happier if that was the case because I think A&M is just a better team. I think that they will be able to shut down Texas. Texas can't throw the ball down the field. They also can't run the ball inside the tackles. There has been nothing, and I say nothing, that has impressed me about Texas. It blows my mind how much our hater pick of the week, Keith, believes in Texas. He's been their best bet, I think, 3 times this season. I think he's 0-3. This week will make it 0-4. They have not impressed me, Johnny. They have not impressed me whatsoever. They beat
Oklahoma.
That
was a big win. They slapped
That's a big brother
Oklahoma.
thing. That's a big brother thing.
Still, you got to give him credit for it.
I will not.
That's crazy.
They got dominated by Georgia in the same sense that A&M will. I think A&M does the exact same thing to Texas that Georgia did.
I just think A&M is tremendously inconsistent, and they do play everyone close.
Inconsistent?
Yeah. What do you mean inconsistent?
They had one bad game, Johnny.
They haven't. We went over this. Let me pull up their schedule. We went over this. They've had a couple games they should have lost. Auburn was bad. Okay, I'm pulling up.
Auburn's played a lot of really good teams.
Notre Dame was bad. Notre Dame, it was close. Auburn 16-10. Arkansas 45-42. South Carolina 31-30. They just play everyone. They play a lot of teams close, especially when they have more talent. Like you're telling me they're a way better team than Auburn and Arkansas.
Auburn's underrated. Yeah, that's a bad game.
South Carolina.
Arkansas
I'm just saying those are three games.
Arkansas did the same thing to Texas.
I'm just saying those 3 games, like they play teams close. So don't be surprised if this is a close game.
Oh, I don't think it is. I'm banking on them. They're also in my ticket, so that doesn't help. So moving on, Miami heading to Pitt. We've talked in depth a little bit about the ACC and what that can mean. I don't think Pitt stands a chance here. I think Miami is positioned really well to make the playoffs, which is crazy to me because I think 2 teams from the ACC is sickening, but they need to win this game to do so. I think it's closer than 7, but I'm going to take Miami here.
This is my Cheesecake Factory pick of the week. Pat Narduzzi, he doesn't care about you Patchers. He doesn't care about Notre Dame. All he cares about is the ACC. What's it plus? Is it still +7?
+7 as of this point.
Yeah, give me all those 7 points. I'm going for the win in this Cheesecake Factory thing right now with this pick. I don't know why I'm doing this. I just think there's something about Pat Narduzzi saying he doesn't care about Notre Dame getting killed by Notre Dame and then coming out and beating Georgia Tech. Like, come on. Like, I don't know. Can they keep doing it?
It's gritty. It's gritty. I just don't. I could see Pitt's quarterback being a young buck, making mistakes down the line. Yeah, definitely an interesting game. Both teams obviously playing for the playoffs. I think it means a lot to have some experience in wide receiver, in quarterback, in offensive and defensive linemen. But boy, is Miami underperformed. And that's a conversation that we could talk about for days, is that there's nothing impressive about that team right now. There's not an ounce of me that would be intimidated to play them again. If I was Notre Dame, if I was A&M, if I was Georgia, if I was anyone.
I don't trust Mario Cristobal. I just don't. No. I don't trust Carson Beck. Like sometimes they're great, sometimes they suck. I don't get them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens this week.
You're spot on. Oregon at Washington, a little bit of a trap game. Oregon is heading towards Washington, a team that they are historically really bad against. I think they're 2-4 in the last 3 years against Washington. Got bodied by.
They lost to Michael Penix twice. I know
twice. That was also a national teams that they should have won. That was a national championship team. Coming off a huge win, a game that people thought USC was going to beat them. I don't think Dan Lanning falls for trap games. I don't think he lets things slip through his fingers. I'm taking Oregon in all of it. I think Oregon can win by 14+ on this one.
Yeah, I think this is a tremendously motivated team, which sounds kind of stupid to say because it's like Johnny,
No,
every team in the country's motivated right now. But I don't know. Dan Lanning fires a light under Oregon's house when they need to get up, and I think
yeah.
they're really going to get up for this game. I think they're going to sit DeCorion Moore and Gary Bryant Jr. I think they showed they didn't need him last week. I think they're going to run heavy, run, and then play action Kenyon Sadiq. And I just think this defense is too good.
Yeah, I think
I've
there's going to
talked
be a
about
lot
them
of
all year.
RPO and a lot of option plays. I think
Yeah.
that the quarterback is going to play really, really well.
Dante Moore's good.
He is really talented. He is.
I feel like early in the season, everyone was talking about him. Then I feel like people stopped. They had that gritty game against Iowa, Penn State double overtime. I feel like people stopped talking about Dante Moore, and he's done a great job under the helmet.
Yes, he has. I don't know. That's a tough thing about when you have that schedule where you don't have that many tough games. Is that
He's
you
still
kind of
playing good football. Yeah.
really good football. LSU heading to OU. LSU is a dead team. Everyone knows that. They stink. That parlay you placed in the beginning of the year was so foolish.
Oh
OU,
my gosh.
this feels like a little bit of a trap game. I'm gonna go with OU just because this is gonna be incredibly short scoring. I think this, if OU scores 21 points, that's gonna be heroic. But I could see a 21-7 or a 21-3 type game. LSU stinks. They barely beat Western Kentucky last week on senior night at home in Death Valley at night. Embarrassing. Give me OU and all of it.
Yeah, I'm riding heavy OU. Mateer's a winner. That defense does everything that we're not used to seeing from
I want to
Oklahoma.
see OU in the playoffs, and when I do that, I become incredibly biased. I know that, but I want to see what they do against some elite teams, and I want to see what they do against the Big Ten. I want to see what they do against the Big 12. Truthfully,
yeah, no, I'm excited. They win, they're in. They're the
yeah,
8th team in the country right now. So
it's
I think
crazy.
they
They
get
win,
in.
they're in with 2 losses, and the next team, Vanderbilt, heading towards Tennessee, a 3-point underdog. Quick news flash there. My Cheesecake Factory pick of the week. I believe in Vanderbilt. I believe that they should make the playoffs. I'm hoping the committee does what's right and puts them in. This would probably put them in with a little bit of chaos. I would much rather see Vanderbilt at 10-2 make the playoffs than a BS 10-2 Miami or a 10-2 BYU. I think it's insulting. You got to show some respect to the Big Ten in the SEC and acknowledge the fact that you lost to what? A top 10 team in Bama, and then you lost to a top 15 team in Texas, at Bama, both incredibly hard teams to beat. Both, Bama obviously beat them by 10 points, but Texas beat them by 3 points. And one of the possessions was a 2-point conversion that they missed.
I fully expect Vandy to be in if it comes down to them, Miami or BYU. I don't think they'll put 2 ACC teams in. I don't think they'll put in 2 Big 12 teams if it's against Vandy, just because Vandy's resume speaks for themselves. And I want them to get in for a couple of reasons, but the main reason is I know Clark Lee is a great coach, but I don't know what this team looks like after Diego Pavia. He is Vanderbilt football right now. And I don't know. So if you're a Vanderbilt fan, you better hope to get in and enjoy the moment. Enjoy every second of this playoff if you get in, because I don't know who's the next guy. And you're losing.
They're building. They're definitely building. Their offensive line has made some huge upgrades, and same with their defensive line. They have one of the best run defenses in the nation. I believe they're top 15 in that. So I believe that they're making the right steps. But yeah, they definitely need a playmaker, and we're seeing what a playmaker does. Diego Pavia is now at plus 600 to win the Heisman. I think he's in 4th place. He was down to 17th place at one time 3 or 4 weeks ago, and now he's back up there. With a
do you know why?
Win. Yeah,
it's because his mom hit the Heisman pose on camera, which was crazy. That's a weird situation.
She's also dating
Theo Vaughn. Yeah, weird right now. But
that's college football.
That's college football. That's chaos. But no, give me Vandy.
They're a gritty team. I don't see how Tennessee will be able to stop them. I think that Vanderbilt will be able to stop the run, which is something that Josh Heupel really hammers and has been underperforming in 2025. He can't run the football, and I don't think that they're going to be able to throw that well against them. But 3-point favorite, I don't love that. Give me the underdog of the week. Excuse me. Big SEC implications. Bama at Auburn. My immediate thoughts, and this is what has me concerned, and this is why you should always fade who you like personally, is Bama by 21. That was my immediate thought. And after talking to Keith this morning at breakfast, he said that this Auburn team, and he said this on the pod, I misread his text. He said this on this pod, with a top 15 or even a top 10 coach, this Auburn team would be in the playoffs. And I sat there and I thought to myself, drinking my coffee, eating my donut, is he crazy?
No,
and I'm going to go no. I think that they
no.
are really, really talented. They have a really cruddy. They had a really cruddy quarterback. Really sad situation. But that freshman quarterback's really talented. Their wide receiver core is really talented. And I'm surprised this job isn't getting talked enough about. Like you go in there and you keep 75, 80% of your roster, and you're sitting in a really good position.
Yeah, I think it's really hard nowadays to keep 75% of your roster. But if they can do that, they're in good shape. Because we had a conversation like maybe after that Oklahoma loss in week 4 or 5, when we were like, if this team had a great quarterback, they're very dangerous. Because I'm going to read, they went through a 4-game stretch where they lost 4 in a row. But listen to this. They lost Oklahoma by 1 touchdown, A&M 6 points, Georgia 10 points, and then Mizzou before Bo got hurt in double overtime.
Yeah.
Those are 4 top 15 teams in the nation. And it was all but 7 points or less. This is a great football team. I also think weird things happen in the Iron Bowl. It's like that old saying that everyone says, it doesn't matter how good these teams are, they're going to beat the hell out of each other. That being said, I fully expect Bama to win. I hope Auburn wins. That would be awesome. But I don't know. Also, if Auburn wins, I think Kalen DeBoer's name's being floated for Penn State. That's a huge.
Is that getting any traction?
Yeah, I've seen it a lot. I'm not saying it. I'm just saying I see it a lot.
Because I brought that opinion up, and I brought up the fact that you were saying it to a couple other of my college football friends, and they called you crazy.
Oh, no. First of all, it's not. I'm just saying I'm seeing it. I'm not saying I don't think they're going to hire him at all. I don't think he would leave Bama. I'm just saying I've been seeing it. And it interests me.
That is interesting. He does not scream a Southern guy. I'm going to go with Auburn here just for pure chaos reasons. I would love to see it. That quote that Nick Saban said on, I think it was Pat McAfee's show the other day about Jordan O'Hare Stadium being haunted is just so perfect. I think I just love that idea that you can go into a stadium, be the cruddiest team in the SEC, and somehow this team who's very talented in Bama is scared to play you. I just love that. I do love that. And I hope this moment isn't too big for Auburn. So I'm going to take the 5.5. I think that they could win this outright, but it's going to be a hell of a game. And then our last game, Johnny, real quick, I bet you and I are both taking Notre Dame here. Stanford's a terrible team. Notre Dame's playing outside their skull. I just wanted to include that because Jeremiah Love, is now, I believe, second, maybe third in the Heisman competitions. It's going to be a super down year for Heisman, but I do think that it's tough, right? He's going to be the last game of the day. So not many people are going to be watching it. But with that being said, a 3 or 4 touchdown game, a 200-yard game could put him in the lead for the Heisman.
Well, they tried I got 2 things. First of all, they tried their best to give it to him last week. 70 points. We're let him go. I think Jeremiah Love's a tremendous running back. He's awesome. Of course he's awesome. I don't need to say that. Everyone knows he's awesome. Yeah. I think he wins his Heisman if they gave him the ball a little more early in the season. I think he could have run away with his Heisman if they didn't. He started in a 6-foot hole and he had to climb out and get out just because early in the season they kind of refused to give it to him. I think that hurts him, the fact where Mendoza and Sayin have been putting up crazy numbers.
Not that crazy if you compare them to other big years. Where I'm going to go with that is I feel like the Heisman is a team. This team would not be as good without these players. And I could see why Fernando Mendoza would win it. But Julian Sayin, I feel like you could plug in anyone into Ohio State right now and they would all be getting very similar results.
No, totally.
As long as they're not Lenore Sellers or something. So I kind of kick back on the Julian Sayin part. But, Fernando Mendoza should be in the conversation. But I think Jeremiah Love should be pretty high up there.
I think it's kind of a down year. You said, I don't know. I don't know who's going to win. Also, my second point is, are you messing with me? That's the last game?
I believe it's at 10:30.
No. I'm saying we have no more games to talk about. Is that what you're saying? Because we got one more game to talk about.
Uh-oh. Did I forget?
Ohio State, Michigan?
Oh, okay. Excuse me. I skipped over that one to talk about it last. It is on the paper.
Okay. I was like, are you mad? Are you pranking me right now?
Yeah. No, it's the craziest game. Johnny, have I sent you that video of Michigan coming out to the stadium? I believe it was last year. Dude, when I say I could cut diamonds when I watch that video,
so sick.
It gives me the chills. I'm it's the Sakaro entrance, which I don't know what that song is from, but it is such a okay. It is such a cool video when the Michigan flag goes up and it pans out and everything's red. We might post it on our channel for others to watch. But gosh, that is such an electric game. Every year I hate on Michigan. This year is no different. I don't like Ohio State, for the record. I think they're a bunch of bought after, buy here, pay here players. They buy their entire team and they beat Notre Dame every single year, which is tough.
It's tough saying that. It's tough saying they buy their players when Michigan spent like $7 million on Bryce.
Oh, hold on. I'm saying that in the grand scheme of college football. That's the reason I'm not head over heels like I used to be with Ohio State, right? Like I used to be an Ohio State fan. I have 3 Ohio State sweatshirts.
Ryan Day, UNH guy.
Yeah, no, Ryan Day's a great guy. That goes without saying. What I'm saying is that I'm almost envious of Ohio State, and I hate how Ohio State is just head and heels over Notre Dame, and Notre Dame has not been able to push through that, which sucks. That does suck. Drop my pen. With that being said, even though Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are out, or probable out, I don't believe that. I think both of them play. Maybe not Carnell Tate. I know Jeremiah Smith plays. They're going to inject him with some goop that they've never heard of, and he's going to come out and look like Superman. I already know it. I don't see a world where Michigan scores more than 10 points.
Yeah.
They stink offensively.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about that. Sorry, I paused to think about that.
No, you're good. I don't see the run game they used to. They don't have the tight end game that they used to, and they're not that good offensively. We have seen Ohio State dominate almost everyone defensively, get turnovers. They don't allow first downs. They do great on third down. In the red zone, they only allow field goals. I don't think anything changes, granted. And I also think Michigan's one of the most fake top 15 teams I've ever seen. I could see Ohio State holding them to 7 points or less. Where I get concerned is I said this exact same thing 12 months ago.
Yeah. No, I think Michigan has a Sharon Moore problem. Like, I don't think he's a great head coach. I think he's a great offensive coordinator. I don't think he's a great head coach. I think they need a head coach, and they'll always recruit at a level and be tough enough to a level where they'll be able to compete in the Big Ten. But I think they need a new guy to get them over the top. I agree about their offense. I don't think Bryce Underwood is ready. I think he's a year or two away. I also think they don't trust him, and it's evident in the play calling. They don't let him push the ball downfield. He's a great runner. They don't run it enough with him. This Ohio State offense, even without Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, looks like the Avengers taking the field with Max Clare and Bo Jackson, which I hate. His name's Bo Jackson. Come on. What are we doing here? Running back Bo Jackson, crazy. Every receiver in that locker room is a 5-star recruit. Offensive line's dogs. And the defense might be better than last year. Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles might be the 2 best linebackers in the country, and Caleb Downs, everyone knows Caleb Downs. Mm-hmm. But that being said, we said all of this last year.
We said this all of this last year.
So I don't know. Insanity is just doing the same thing over again and expecting different results. I'm going to do that. I'm going to bet Ohio State. I think they win. I got a buddy at work, Keith. He's a Michigan guy. He's saying, you know what? No pressure on us going into this game. And I think that's the edge Michigan has. Because if they lose this game, everyone expects them to lose this game. But if Ohio State loses this game, it's like, how many years can we keep losing it in a row? But I don't think they lose this game.
I don't think so either. I think that they're gritty enough and they're built to compete with Michigan on this one. Last year's loss, it wasn't the biggest spread loss that we've obviously seen. We've seen some massive upsets in terms of the spread. It was one of the most jaw-dropping, confusing losses that I can remember in recent memory. Am I mistaken on that? That Michigan team did not look good. Granted, they came out and played really good against Bama, and they played, I think they won 5 of the last 5 and whatever it may be. But I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I was driving home. I watched that at my brother's, and I'm driving home, and I'm like,
this makes sense.
The hell was that?
How makes sense?
How does that happen? How does that happen? And I don't think that Ryan Day has gone an hour since, not a single hour without thinking about Michigan in this game. I think Chip Kelly, all jokes aside, Chip Kelly sucks. I don't care that he's from UNH. Chip Kelly's terrible. Johnny, the game has come and gone, and that is so evident. He had he had some of the best offensive talent that we've seen in a single team since 2019. Johnny, knock it off. You're biased.
No, I'm not, because they didn't. I think the loss to Michigan last year.
He called a terrible game. He called a terrible game.
I know, but I think that's more of a Ryan Day thing. I think Ryan Day wanted to beat up straight up man football. But if you look at every other game, I know it didn't go well with the Raiders this year, but give me an offensive coordinator that would have done well with the Raiders this year. Geno looks like father time, and the offensive line, Aston Genty has to break 4 tackles before he gets to line of scrimmage. But that's NFL, and this isn't an NFL podcast. Going back to last year, that was the only bad game he called. Dude, you saw that national championship.
It's the biggest game of the year, Johnny. It's the biggest game of the year.
No, the national championship was the biggest game of the year, and he dialed it up against Notre Dame.
They beat him by 1 possession, but sure.
Oh my gosh, this garbage time. Garbage time. Come on. Be honest.
Blow me, dude. It was not garbage time.
They looked great. They looked great. He called a great game.
You're giving all the credit to Chip Kelly and not the studs that he had.
I'm not saying I'm giving all the credit to Chip Kelly.
I think that you could plug in about 15 different OCs and have the exact same result last year, if not better.
I know. I'm just saying I don't think it was Chip Kelly last year against Michigan.
I think it was Chip Kelly. I think Chip Kelly is just
what about the year? What about the year before with Kyle McCord?
That team was not that good. And that team was they lost a national championship, Michigan.
That team was pretty good. That team
they lost to the national champion. The most overrated national champion that we have ever seen in Michigan. I hate Michigan. I hate Jim Harbaugh. I love this rivalry. I think it is so electric. I hope it is cold. I hope it snows. I was rewatching the video of the 1973 game, which was a tie. If you go back and watch it, they tied either 10-10 or 13-13. And Ohio State gets on the field, and they go and rip down the poster that Michigan was supposed to run underneath. And then the following year, a bunch of fraternities were there, and they kept hitting the Ohio State players as they were running onto the field so that they wouldn't jump and rip down the big poster. Look it up. It is an absolute crazy video. But that game is going to be so electric. I think that OSU drops 35, if not more. But there's always just that little growing flame in my head that I'm like, this is the exact same situation as last year. But I think, OSU is almost nearly minus money to win the Natty, which is crazy if you take a step back. And I don't think anything stops with tomorrow's game.
Yeah, no, Ohio State's going to win tomorrow.
So, Johnny, we have our haters picks of the week and then our parlays. Do you want to dive into our haters picks of the week?
Yeah, let me do my quick winners and losers.
Oh, yes. Excuse me.
First. This is quick. First off, we have Pat Narduzzi, big winner of the week. I already said it in the podcast, but he's just saying, I don't care about losing Notre Dame. I care about the ACC. He went out, beat a good Georgia Tech team. That was awesome. Second winner of the week is back-to-back winner, Wisconsin. Beating Illinois at home. Like their season was in the toilet, and they went out and beat Washington and Illinois. Yeah, he might have. They said he's coming back. They said that before this game. He's coming back. But I'm just saying, this is a team that was dead in the water, and those are two. Illinois and Washington are two good teams. So that was awesome. I'm really happy for them. Last one of the week is my boy at Penn State, Katron Allen. Penn State's had a variety of unbelievable running backs. Saquon Barkley, Kajana Carter, number 1 pick in the draft. John Capoletti won the Heisman. And Katron Allen is now the Penn State all-time leading rusher, 3,958 yards. That's impressive. Anytime you can get that record out of blue blood. I think it's also impressive because I've had Nick Singleton all 4 of those years, who's also a stud running back. He tied the record for most touchdowns with Saquon Barkley in Penn State history. It's been a down season, but that's why college football is the best, because when the Panthers have a down season, you see that stadium empty in the NFL. But yeah, that place was packed. It was senior day. It was electric. He got the record. And they beat the hell out of Nebraska. And that brings me to my losers. And my first loser of the week is Matt Rule.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
Low key, my Penn State fandom is growing. Chanting for Terry to be the head coach, both the players and the fans.
It was awesome.
Legit almost had tears in my eyes. Carrying him off the field, dumping the Gatorade on him. Him at the press conference talking about how much it means to him. That's the type of guy, he's not going to get the job. He's not going to get the job.
He's not going to get the job.
I
But
think he could be a really good hire in terms of a defensive coordinator, an offensive coordinator, whatever he may be. But I just love to see that. Like you're talking, this team is dead in the water, right? They're playing to be bowl eligible, and you have fans chanting for the interim
Harry,
coach. It's
it was
unbelievable.
awesome. It was awesome.
Unbelievable.
And that's why college football is the best because everyone's engaged still in that stadium. They got the signs, hire Terry. Those kids are running through walls for that guy right now.
Yeah.
And that was
Yep.
pretty amazing to see. So that was an awesome environment. That brings me to my loser of the week is Matt Rule. Matt Rule
Yep.
was a guy, he went to Penn State. Pat Kraft is the AD at Penn State, and he was the AD at Temple when Matt Rule was at Temple. So he was a name that was like floated out there like originally. Matt Rule is going to get the Penn State job. Matt Rule is going to get another big job. If that was, I know it's calmed down. I know it got extended, but if that was any type of like an interview that game, man, Nebraska looked bad. They didn't look well coached. All Penn State can do right now with a young quarterback is pound the rock. They had, like I said, Katron Allen going for the record. He needed 130 yards. They knew they were going to try to give him the record at home, hand the ball off. They couldn't stop the run. That was kind of embarrassing. I don't know. That was a loser. And then
also Dylan Raiola is transferring.
Yeah, his brother decommitted too.
His brother decommitted, and then there's a lot of speculation that Dylan Raiola is transferring, and they asked Matt Rule about it on Wednesday or Tuesday, and he was like, "You want to see someone stutter? Look at him stutter. He has no idea what to say. He's like, this is news to me. He's in my locker room right now. I'll go talk to him." You're telling me a guy who went to 4 different high schools, committed, decommitted, committed, decommitted, committed to Nebraska, has any loyalty to Nebraska? No. That backup quarterback is arguably better. It's just going to take some developmental time. I think Raiola is gone. I think Matt Rule, that whole 3-year Matt Rule thing is gone. He has not performed this year like they should.
It's a bummer. It feels like he can't really shake off the stink he got from when he was with the Carolina Panthers. Because before that, he was awesome. Like he had some really great.
It seems like he can't shake off the stink of the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
I know, but I'm saying, like, dude, him at Baylor, he was awesome there. He won the Big 12. It was up and coming. That's a bummer. And then you're going to disagree with me this last one. I won't go into it too much because I've already talked a lot about him. But my second loser was Lincoln Riley, just because I feel like he gets the last 3 years he's gone. Come on. He's in every close game, being up 3 touchdowns on Penn State last year, throwing back-to-back like 100-yard pick sixes against Notre Dame last year. This Oregon game was close in the first half. Even the Michigan game was close. Like this was a good USC team. I just feel like they can't get over the hump. They can't get over the hump.
I think we're asking him to do too much, but that's just me.
I don't know, because he was making a 14 playoff with Oklahoma. You know what I mean? Like he's been in big games.
A lot easier to win in the Big 12, the old Big 12. You had one big game here.
I know, but still they had Kyler and Baker. It's some great teams. I'm just saying it's a bummer right now. It seems like they can't win a big game, and that sucks for USC. But you want to move on to, we both have done our Cheesecake Factory picks of the week. So you want to do your parlay?
We have our parlays, and then we have our hater picks of the week. My parlay, really quick. I have Ole Miss minus 5.5, currently up 14-7 as I speak. A&M minus 2.5. I love that pick. Give me all of that. OSU minus 9.5. Vandy money line plus 12-13. I currently actually have some money on that parlay from a bet voucher from my friend Keith. So I will be a rich man if all 4 of those hit. Awesome.
My parlay, I got Pittsburgh. I got Pitt plus 7. I should have done money line. I chickened out when I booked this. I got Pitt plus 7. I got Vanderbilt money line against Tennessee, and then Mizzou minus 3 against Arkansas. That is plus 734. Bet 10, win 83. I'm also a loser of the week because I forgot to text Matt Pittman about hater picks of the week. But that being said, he's pretty busy. His sister's getting married tomorrow. He's in the wedding, so he's traveling today. So I'm not going to bother.
Wow, what a great day for a wedding! If someone was to get married tomorrow, it would be a tough ask for me to go. But shout out to Matt. I hope he has a great time. Keith sent me about Keith. I think this paragraph that you sent me over text was longer than your college admissions essay. So bear with us here. Here are my picks. This is Keith, our biggest hater of the show. Best bet of the year, Texas plus 3. Heard this song and dance, but I will read it word for word. A&M has shown nothing to me over the last month and a half. Not trying to discredit their win versus Notre Dame, but it was simply almost 3 months ago. While some may say I have a Texas bias, they are undefeated at home, and I believe they can make the playoff with a win. That's crazy. Texas outright I see this pick so clearly. Keith, you need to get your eyes checked if you see this so clearly. Washington +7. Dan Lanning is 1-3 versus Washington in his career, and their offensive performance against good teams on the road has been extremely lackluster. Sprinkle the +220 money line. I could see Oregon having to sweat a playoff spot.
Wow.
Mississippi State +7.5. I don't know if I buy all these Lane Kiffin rumors, and this pick of the Bulldogs has no bearing on the situation. Mississippi State has played very good teams at home, tough, and could easily be a ranked team if a few plays went their way. Again, sprinkle money line at +240. The Ohio State -9.5. In past years, I've loved Michigan in this game and have been right 4 years in a row. The streak ends tomorrow and ends in a blowout. This is a strong consideration for my best bet of the week. Move the line to +13.5, -13.5, -20.5, and hell, even -27.5. I think Ohio State wins 45-10. I think that one is spot on, Keith. Two more. Tennessee -2.5. The Vandy story this year was extremely fun, and I'm so sick of seeing Diego Pavia's mom 5 out of 10 at best.
Wow, so disrespectful.
Yeah, dude, show some respect to someone's mother. Vandy doesn't have a win to sell the playoff committee on. They have come up short on the road multiple times this year, and I don't see that changing. Auburn +5.5 against Bama, a reoccurring theme on this edition of my picks. Take a home dog in rivalry games. Auburn is a better team than their record shows, and a win against their rival, effectively ending Bama's chances of national title, would lead to a narrative change about Auburn's season. That's valid. +180. Giving out a parlay for the first time on the pod, let it be known that I own championship week. And if you're not telling this, you're doing a disservice to your wallet. Keith, I have no recollection of you owning championship week. I would like proof of that. We have Texas money line, Ohio State -9.5, Miami money line, Washington +7.5, Tennessee money line, and Auburn +11.5. You stretch that line. 50 wins you 1,200. Good luck to you all. Keith,
Wow.
I agree with you on some points. I love the Auburn pick. The Washington one has some really good insight, but I think Vandy wins this game, and I think that Texas is a joke. So you're wrong on that one.
Yeah, I'm excited. Game's on right now. Update for the listeners: 14-7 right now. Ole Miss over Mississippi State. Nothing's changed. That's a rock fight right now.
Not a good start for you, Keith.
Good luck this weekend, Patch.
Johnny, we'll talk to you soon. Go Buckeyes.
See ya.